My family abandoned my 18-year-old daughter in a do-not-travel country without a passport. They came back to the resort like everything was normal, smiling, laughing, chatting about the weather and buffet options. But Rose wasn't with them. My daughter, 18, alone. I looked past them, waiting for her to appear around the corner. Maybe she stopped to grab water. Maybe she was lagging behind, but no one turned around. No one asked about her. I asked, "Where's Rose?" It came out sharper than I intended. Dad didn't even blink. "She's probably on the next flight." He muttered. "The next flight," I echoed. "She lost her passport during the layover." Mom said, "It's being sorted out." My husband stiffened beside me. I could feel it. He felt what I did. That bone-deep warning that something was very wrong. "She lost it in London?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Dad shrugged. "Not quite. Our flight got rerouted. We got a better deal, cheaper and faster. 2 layovers. One was in Sudan." Sudan. They rerouted through Sudan, a country listed as do not travel by the U.S. State Department. "And where exactly did she lose her passport?" I asked slowly. "In Sudan," Dad replied. I stared at each of them, waiting for anyone to crack a smile, say it was a joke, but they just stood there. "You left her?" My voice dropped to a whisper. "She's 18, Dad said flatly. "She can figure it out." Max, my sister's son, laughed. "You should have seen her panic when she realized it." "Hilarious." His sister snorted. She totally freaked, like full-blown meltdown. I was stunned, not just at what they did, but how little they cared. They'd watched my daughter panic and called it entertainment. Daria stepped forward. "Why didn't one of you stay with her? She said she'd handle it." My sister snapped. "She's always acting like she knows everything. She warned you. I said she told you Sudan wasn't safe, and now she's stuck there alone without ID." "No embassy." Savannah chimed in. She was being dramatic. "Said it wasn't safe for women." Then Max said it. The line that broke something in me. "I mean, her dad's black, right? So she fits in better than we do." Darius's arm tensed beside me. My sister tried to laugh it off, but I saw the truth on their faces. This wasn't a mistake. This was something uglier. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "We're fixing this." I booked a one-way flight. Darius would fly overnight to bring her passport and bring her home. I stayed behind to deal with them. We tried calling her dozens of times straight to voicemail. When I finally heard her voice, I nearly dropped the phone. She was exhausted, scared, trying to stay in the terminal. Men had approached her. One offered help for a favor. I told her, "A dad's coming. Stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone. Just hold on." And then I opened the hotel reservation portal and canceled everything. Their suites, their rooms, the family block I'd paid for as a gift. Let's see how resourceful they were now. By morning, security was pounding on their doors. "You can't do this," Dad shouted. "We have children. Check out. Time has passed." The manager replied calmly, "You must leave." My mom came banging on my door that night. "You canceled our rooms." "Yes," I said. "You're punishing all of us." "No, you punished yourselves. I just stopped paying for it." Kendra crossed her arms. "So, we make one mistake and this is it. One mistake." I laughed cold and quiet. "You hit her passport. You laughed while she cried. You abandoned her in a war zone to save a few bucks. That's not a mistake. That's cruel." I closed the door. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the black sheep. I felt like a mother protecting her child. They can figure out their own flights, sleep in budget motel, eat vending machine dinners. Because if they could leave my daughter to fend for herself in a foreign country, they can absolutely figure out how to get home without my help. My family abandoned my 18-year-old daughter, Rose, in a country no one should travel to without a passport. They returned to the resort as if everything was perfectly normal, smiling, laughing, chatting about the weather and buffet options. But Rose was nowhere to be seen. My daughter, 18 years old, left completely alone. I looked past their casual faces, hoping she'd turn the corner any second. Maybe she stopped to grab water, or maybe she lagged behind. But no one looked back. No one asked about her? "Where's Rose?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. Dad didn't even flinch. "She's probably on the next flight," he muttered. "The next flight," I echoed, hardly able to believe it. "She lost her passport during the layover," Mom said casually. "It's being sorted out." My husband stiffened beside me. I felt it inside, that deep warning in my bones, that something was terribly wrong. "She lost it in London?" I asked, striving to keep calm. Dad shrugged. "Not quite. Our flight got rerouted. We got a better deal, cheaper and faster. 2 layovers, one was in Sudan." "Sudan?" I repeated in disbelief. Sudan is a country on the U.S. State Department's Do Not Travel list. "And where exactly did she lose her passport?" I asked slowly. "In Sudan," Dad replied flatly. I stared at all of them, waiting for someone, anyone, to crack a smile, to say it was a joke. But they stood stone-faced. "You left her?" I whispered, horrified. "She's 18, Dad said, voice hard. "She can figure it out." Max, my sister's son, laughed. You should have seen her panic when she realized it. "Hilarious." "His," sister snorted. She totally freaked, a full meltdown. I was stunned, not just by what they did, but by how little they cared. They'd watched my daughter panic and called it entertainment. Daria stepped forward. "Why didn't one of you stay with her? She said she'd handle it." My sister snapped. "She's always acting like she knows everything." Then sneered. "She warned you," I said flatly. "She told you Sudan wasn't safe, and now she's stuck there alone. No ID, no embassy." Savannah chimed in, dismissing it as drama. "It's not safe for women." Then Max said the cruelest thing. "I mean, her dad's black, right? So she fits in better than we do." My husband's arm tensed beside me. My sister laughed it off, but I saw the truth behind their faces. This was no accident. It was something cruel and intentional. I didn't scream or cry. I said simply, "We're fixing this." I booked a one-way flight immediately. Darius would fly overnight, bring her passport, bring her home. I stayed behind to deal with the family. We tried calling Rose dozens of times, but no answers, just voicemail. When I finally heard her voice, I nearly dropped the phone. She was exhausted, scared, stuck in the terminal. Men approached her. One offered help in exchange for favors. I told her firmly, "Dad's coming. Stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone. Just hold on." Then I opened the hotel reservation portal and canceled everything. Their suites, their rooms, the entire family block I'd gifted. Let's see how resourceful they are now. By morning, security pounded on their door. "You can't do this." Dad shouted, "We have children. Checkout time has passed." The manager's calm reply, "You must leave." That night, my mother came banging on my door. "You canceled our rooms." "Yes. You're punishing all of us." "No. You punished." "Yourselves." I just stopped paying. Kendra crossed her arms, furious. "So we make one mistake and that's it? One mistake?" I laughed quietly, coldly. "You hid her passport. You laughed while she cried. You abandoned her in a war zone to save a few dollars. That's not a mistake. That's cruelty." I closed the door. For the first time, I didn't feel like the black sheep. I felt like a mother protecting her child. They can figure out their own flights, sleep in budget motels, eat vending machine dinners. Because if they could leave my daughter to fend for herself in a foreign country, they can absolutely figure out how to get home without my help. Story? At my brother's wedding, the best man, wife's lover, suddenly pointed at me and laughed into the microphone. "Everyone, here's my divorced brother and his broke little girl. Anyone want to date him?" The guests laughed, and my father added, "Let's start the bidding at $50, shall we?" As my daughter began to cry, I reached for my pocket. Someone in tears. The crowd slowly stood up. Chapter 1. The invitation I almost ignored. I never wanted to come. The ivory envelope with gold calligraphy had sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks. It smelled faintly of expensive cologne and entitlement, just like my brother Evan. "Mr. and Miss Dawson are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Evan Dawson and Camille Gray," it read when I finally opened it. "No, we'd love to have you there." No personal note, just pure formality. It felt less like an invitation and more like a reminder. "You're not part of this family anymore, but here's your seat at the back just to rub it in." But I went anyway for my daughter Emma. She was 11, too young to understand the layers of betrayal, the politics, the whispered insults disguised as jokes. But she knew she had cousins, an uncle, a grandfather, and a mother who'd left us both. Then ran straight into my brother's arms. Yes, Evan's best man, Tyler, was also my ex-wife's lover. And their little secret, everyone in my family had known before I did. But today wasn't about me or them. Emma wore her favorite yellow dress, hair and curls clutching the small present she'd insisted on bringing. "For Uncle Evan," she said sweetly. And so we went. We walked into the venue together, her smile radiant, mine practiced. I tried to tell myself we'd just sit quietly, eat dinner, say congratulations, and leave. But I should have known. People, like Evan, don't just want to win. They want to humiliate you along the way. Chapter 2. The toast that burned everything. The venue was extravagant. Marble pillars, imported orchids, and chandeliers so bright they made you forget how cold the people inside could be. Emma held my hand tighter as we entered the reception hall. Every eye that turned our way seemed to linger, not in welcome, but in amusement. Whispers followed us like shadows. I spotted my parents near the head table. My mother's face tightened the moment she saw me, like I was an inconvenient footnote in the fairy tale they were living. My father didn't even nod, just turned to refill his champagne glass. We were seated at table 18, far from the center near the exit. Between an elderly aunt and a vendor, Evan had clearly forgotten to tip. But Emma didn't mind. She was too busy admiring the cake and the flowers and the violinist playing soft classics in the background. That was all that mattered to me, her smile. Then came the moment that shifted everything. The lights dimmed, glasses clinked keyed, a spotlight landed on the head table. Tyler, the best man, and the man my ex-wife had chosen over me, stood holding the mic with a smirk. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, swaying slightly with the confidence only someone arrogant or drunk could muster. "I've known Evan for years, and I've seen him conquer the world. But today, I've also seen him do the impossible. He got married, and willingly signed a prenup." Laughter. He let it die down before continuing. "And speaking of miracles, look who showed up." The mic turned toward our table. The spotlight followed. "Everyone say hi to my divorced brother and his broke little girl. Anyone want to date him? He's available. Discounted." The room erupted in laughter. It was cruel, loud, merciless. And then my father raised his glass and chuckled into his mic. "Let's start the bidding at $50, shall we?" That's when I heard it, the sound that shattered me. Emma, my daughter, was crying, her head bowed, cheeks red, tiny hands trembling in her lap. I reached for her instinctively, but then I paused. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket because this was no longer just a wedding. This was war, and someone in the crowd was standing up. Chapter 3. The guest. They didn't expect. The room fell into a hush as the figure stood. At first, no one recognized him, dressed in a charcoal suit, no tie, posture like a blade. But when he took a step forward, the silence deepened. It was Mr. Grayson Wells, Chief Executive Officer of Wells Tech Industries, one of the most feared corporate negotiators in the country, the man whose name alone shifted markets, and more importantly, my mentor, investor, and friend. Evan's smirk twitched. My father's glass froze halfway to his lips. Mr. Wells didn't look at them. He looked straight at Emma, who was still wiping her tears with trembling fingers. He walked up to her gently. "Miss Emma," he said softly, offering her a handkerchief. "Anyone who dares humiliate your father in public like this has no idea who they're dealing with." He turned to face the crowd. "Good evening," he said, now taking the mic from the shocked event host. "I wasn't planning to speak, but I believe now is the perfect moment to address something more meaningful than overpriced vows and undercooked steak." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. He continued, "For those of you who don't know, this man," he pointed to me, "is the reason Wells' newest green energy division even exists. While his ex-wife and family were mocking him, he was silently building a future that now powers over 400,000 homes. Gasps. A few murmurs. Someone dropped a fork. But more than that, he added, turning slightly. He's the kind of man who raises a child with grace, not greed, dignity, not dollars. And while your family laughed at him, he was busy becoming a partner in one of the biggest tech buyouts in state history. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Inside, it was a contract marked with both our signatures and the Wells corporate seal. I didn't need to say a word. Mr. Wells was doing it for me. This man, he continued, raising the contract high, is now worth more than everyone on this guest list combined. And he still showed up, still smiled, still kept his daughter calm until your little circus act tried to crush her spirit. He paused, letting the weight of that truth sink in. I won't stay for dessert. But before I go, he handed the mic back to the stunned host and turned to me, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. It's time. I nodded, and as I walked toward the stage, my father stumbled to stand, red-faced. My brother's bride was whispering urgently to her mother. Tyler, the best man, looked like he'd seen a ghost. I took a deep breath and opened the small velvet box I had brought. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into the projector behind the DJ booth and said calmly into the mic, "Let's show the real slideshow, shall we?" Chapter 4. The USB drive that destroyed the illusion. The projector clicked to life. The screen behind the newlyweds, still frozen in awkward smiles, flickered, and the first image appeared. A photo not of me, not of Emma, but of Tyler, the best man, shirtless, tangled in sheets with my ex-wife. Their faces visible, unmistakable, time-stamped, geo-tagged, several dates, several cities. The crowd gasped, but that was just the beginning. Slide 2. Tyler entering a hotel suite. My wife, already inside lingerie. Slide 3. A screenshot of a message thread. Tyler, don't worry. He still thinks we're just friends. Idiot even asked me to be his best man. Slide 4. A paternity test. Proof that Emma, my daughter, was biologically mine, despite the rumors. They'd tried to circulate that I wasn't her real father. The slideshow continued. A voice recording next. I'd boosted the audio. Tyler and my ex-wife, drunk and laughing. Tyler, he's going to sit in the back of the wedding like a sad little loser. Man doesn't even know his family is done with him. My ex-wife. Let him watch. Us from the corner where he belongs. He'll probably cry, and my sister will get it on video. The room was no longer silent. It was buzzing with rage. Whispers, gasps, phones recording. My father tried to unplug the system, but Mr. Wells blocked. Him? I wouldn't, he said coldly. Touch that cable and I'll pull funding from your son's mortgage bank. Believe me, I can. My brother, now sweating through his tux, stood up. Turn it off, he barked. But I wasn't done because the next slide, emails from my brother to my ex-wife, discussing how to leverage me into signing over our late mother's lake house. Convince him he's nothing. One line read, shame him publicly at my wedding if you have to, then he'll fold. He always does. Slide after slide exposed their lies, their cruelty, their greed. My ex-mother-in-law fainted literally. Emma clutched my hand, now brave, standing tall beside me. And then, one final slide. A photo of me and Mr. Wells standing on the balcony of my new penthouse suite. Captioned, "You thought I was down, but I was rebuilding, and now I'm free, and you're all exposed." Chapter 5. The aftermath and the walkout that shook the wedding. Silence returned to the ballroom, but not the peaceful kind. This was the kind of silence that falls after a bomb drops. People sat stiff, uncomfortable in their suits and dresses, unsure whether to look at me at my daughter or the burning embarrassment smeared across my brother's and Tyler's faces. Emma leaned in and whispered, "Daddy, can we go now?" I looked at her and smiled softly. "Not yet, sweetheart. You deserve to see what respect looks like." I stepped forward toward the stage where my brother still stood, trying to mask the collapse of his world behind clenched teeth. To the guests, I said into the mic, my voice calm but unshakable. I sincerely apologized for the interruption, but After being mocked, ridiculed, and lied about in front of my child, I figured the truth deserves some stage time too. I turned toward my brother. You once said I always liked staying in the background. That's true. I stayed in the background while you stole from me, while you slept with my wife, while you made jokes about me behind my back, while you tried to break a little girl's spirit. But not anymore. I gestured toward Mr. Wells, who gave a small nod. You see, I sold my tech firm last year, I continued. Not that any of you asked how I was doing. I'm not broke. I'm retired. The lake house signed into a private trust for my daughter, my ex-wife, now being sued for defamation. And that recording you all heard, admissible evidence. Tyler opened his mouth. Maybe to object, maybe to beg, but I held up a finger. I wouldn't, I said. This mic records. The crowd stirred. Some guests quietly got up and began leaving, embarrassed to have been part of the cruelty. A few murmured apologies to me as they passed. But I wasn't done yet. I faced my father. You laughed. You said $50 for me and my daughter. You, of all people, should have known better. I may have been silent, but I never stopped watching, and now everyone's seen who you really are. He tried to wave it off like a joke. Come on, son. It was just... Don't call me son, I said firmly. From this day forward, you are not family to me. Neither of you are. I looked at my daughter and extended my hand. Let's go. We walked down the center aisle, hand in hand, past gasps and lowered eyes. But just before I reached the doors, I turned one last time. Oh, and brother, I called out, you might want to talk to your bride. I think she should know about the third woman you've been sleeping with. His face drained of all color. His new wife's face twisted into confusion, then horror. And with that, we walked out. Chapter 6. The Final Blow. What happened? Months later, 3 months passed. Autumn had begun to roll in, painting the trees in shades of orange and gold. Emma and I had settled into our quiet lakeside home, far from the city, far from the noise.